Welcome back to another episode of No Whole Time. We are still in San Diego, having a great time, and going to record another episode with Stacy Sherman. Thanks for being here again. Thanks for staying around for part two.
Love being in San Diego with you.
The pleasure is all ours. So Brian is going to be the lead here. He has a bunch of questions. We sort of I'm the guy that likes to learn about people's fun things and why you are who you are in your professional life, what drives you, and then, Brian just keeps us on track.
I think David just said I'm boring.
You said it.
You have a CX mind.
Thank you. You're a lot nicer than David was. Just told me I was not fun at all right there. Thanks, man.
He goes deep.
Yeah.
I figured we'd use part two to talk a little bit about the industry, where all of us kind of live and breathe these days, and get a chance to talk to some amazing people and clients and businesses. I'd love to just start. So we talked a little bit on the last part about CXO and customer centricity and maybe some amazing things that you've experienced in CX. I'd love to ask you a question. If you had limited but unlimited budgets and someone said, "Hey, Stacy, come work for us, be our CXO, help us with what we want to do," where would you start? And it's a big question, but where would you start?
It's really simple to me, and I hope people call me for this. Much of what we talked about and I did on stage today is these silos. Mm-hmm. So I would come in and really evaluate how much silos is a problem. Silos are there. It's every company I've ever been at. How much of a problem is it? And so does everybody understand the domino effect of their role to the next role? And so literally, even if it's back of a napkin, literally walking in the employee's shoes and then the customer's shoes. So how have you designed today the customer, how they learn marketing, buy, e-commerce, sales, etc. Learn, buy, get, use, pay, get help, customer service, which is not customer experience. They are not the same thing, but equally important. And so literally map out, what is the design today? What is the experience today from the internal view? Then take that and actually go validate it with real customers to see, does it meet their real needs? And where's the gap? And then come back to the internal team and then go fix those. The thing about the internal team is that when everybody's in the room, you actually have the dialogue and communication like no other vehicle does. Because people then say, "Oh, I didn't realize you do that." Or, "Oh my God, nobody's doing this. I thought you did."
Yeah.
And that's the reality of all the companies I've been in, is when we do that journey management together, that's how you break the silos and the continuation, because it's evolving, because customer needs are evolving. And the last thing I'd say about that is it's amazing. Does not require a big technology investment. When you bring the people together from the different organizations and they are literally co-designing the journey or co-optimizing the journey, those friendships and bonds happen and people work well together and the customer feels it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were talking about this in a previous episode, and it's, as a sales team, as a supplier of that, we find ourselves often, we sell tech, so it is what it is, but we end up talking more to business folks about the problem, but to have to go convince IT folks for the money, and then go have to make everyone decide together, and then InfoSec's always there telling, do this and do that. How do you get people to break those silos? And don't share all the secret sauce. You do your thing, but how do you help just start there? Like, how do you convince folks you should talk to business because this is important? How do you get them on that page?
Well, first of all, start with the voice of the employee, right? In other words, I'll get feedback as an agnostic bystander, right? I have no hidden agenda coming in. Mm-hmm. And I will ask different departments their feedback. And then ultimately, everyone comes together and hears, and they just don't know, they don't realize the gaps. And so it starts with the inner audit. I don't like the word audit, but it's the fact finding, both the soft stuff,
the discovery.
It's the discovery, just like in sales,
Yeah.
but it's the soft feelings, and it's the data, and blending what I call heart and science and bringing that together. And again, it's by bringing the human together and bringing the data together that you actually can drive that culture of community.
Because everybody wants to do good things, right things. They're not going to hold their ground very often. So you're right. If we see it too. If we bring data or good movement and good ideas to the situation, most people will consume them. It does just take someone centrally to break those walls down.
Glue. Elmer's glue. That's who we are as CXers. I will also say that goals cannot be understated. We can't ignore that, because I was in a position, I was on the e-commerce team, and we had our metrics, and I was the CX guru of the team. I was the only one with the C-suite who had customer satisfaction metrics, NPS, and some of these others. The other people on the team did not. So what happens? Well, here comes Stacy Sherman coming in with the voice of the customer from multi-channels and coming to the team and saying, hey, we've got to optimize this page on the site because they're stuck and they're not getting through, or that's why they're not adding to cart. Some would listen, some would say later. Why? Because they had other metrics. And therefore, if we're not all singing to the same song sheet with the same goals, I couldn't do my job. Finally, I had a big voice and I got that change, and that next year's results were so much better because we were aligned. And it wasn't personal. It wasn't that they didn't like me. It was just that their goals were different than mine.
You know, I shared this in a previous episode, but one of my mentors gave me some advice that helped me be more successful. And it was spend time with leaders in different parts of the organization, right? Don't just talk to your sales leader. Talk to finance, talk to onboarding, talk to customer success, and understand what you do affects what they do affects what you do, and it affects all of our customers. And I think that's sort of a microcosm of what we're talking about here is if you have goals and you understand everybody else's goals, then you know what you do is going to affect them and ultimately affect everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, the undercover boss is a real thing, but we all get to be not even undercover. Hey, can I shadow you? Can I, as I referenced before, in an elevator industry, I was never a mechanic, but I went on tons of ride-alongs. Let me go live in the day of the life of you who is customer facing and understand what's your pain points. How can I advocate for you by being in the role? So absolutely shadowing, formal programs, and most of all, non-formal programs.
Yeah. My question was, how can sales help you, CFO, clearly make more money, right? But how can I help you in different roles? And that's helped me a lot. It's helped me, and I think ultimately it's helped the company because I'm performing better, all that good stuff. I have to ask you a question. I won't forgive myself if I don't ask you this. In the elevator business.
It goes up and down.
I heard that it has its ups and downs.
Boom.
I don't know where to take
I knew it was coming.
I did too.
I've never heard that before. Actually, here's what really is fun. Oh my gosh, when I was working in the industry, I used to get, so it was Schindler Elevator, and they were like family at the time, so I'm glad to brag about them. But I would get pictures of selfies in the elevator from friends and family. They'd be on a cruise, they'd be in another country, and they'd be like taking this picture, not of family, not of dogs and children, but of elevators. I'm in a Schindler elevator.
That's funny. So we are on a global mental health task force, or I am, and we had a meeting at the UN, and they have people that check where you go at all times. And we had to take an elevator, and there was a very serious person in the elevator. And so he's an elevator attendant who also checks your badge and where you're going to make sure you're not going where you shouldn't. And I asked him that. I was like, how's the elevator business? And I heard it has its ups and downs. And he didn't even he didn't move. He was very serious. And then on the way out, he just was like, that was a good one.
Oh, there you go.
At least you made someone laugh.
Yeah.
That's good. We are in the business of technology. We sell a lot of IVRs. Now we call them IVAs. We sell a lot of outbound text messaging programs. All that to the side. I would love for you. We talked a lot about statistics in another version of our podcast, where we talk about what's important to what we think is important, which is deflection rate and NPS scoring and the variety of things that make up a score. I'd love if you don't mind sharing a couple of things that you may always consider when you bring your consulting to someone. Like, what should they care about? What should they look at?
So one of them is effort score. And I love that metric because if you think about it, it's the why of NPS. Why someone is going to recommend or not is if it's difficult. If it is difficult to reach an agent, if it is difficult to get help, if it is difficult to get my answer, if it's difficult to return that item that I bought online that the store won't take back, that's very telling. So effort is a really strong metric to me. And it applies to the internal customer too. Because if the agents are not equipped to do their job, if it's a high level of effort, if they're going through multiple screens while the customer's on the phone, or they're trying to find answers and the content, the database is not updated, right? They're putting the customer on hold, and it's a high level of effort for the agent. There you got stress and burnout. And so effort, internal and external, so important.
We've been hearing more about the internal. I love that you put that in, like, effort, level of effort. It's one of my favorite things that I've seen as a trend is how do we help our agents or our employees be more prepared to interact with customers. So it just seems like that's more top of mind, and I love it because I think I'm part of the culture club internally at Mosaics to help people have a good time where they work and all that stuff. So I appreciate that people are putting more of their time and effort and visibility into helping people, because ultimately if they're prepared, it's going to be a better customer experience and the brand's going to succeed and do better. So I just love that. I hear that a lot more.
So something that was very effective in companies I worked for, and if you asked me to come into a company, this is another thing I would recommend, which is community. Give your customer service reps a community, a place for peer-to-peer support. And I can go an hour into this topic. Here's the reason that's why. The why you want to invest in community is because if you don't, they do. And this is true story. When I was in the BPO, I would go on Facebook because I saw there were these agent chatters and they wouldn't let me in because I was from corporate. So if you don't create that community for them, they will, and you don't get to know what they're talking about, and then you can't fix the pain points.
Yeah. We used to do, before we rebuild an IVR, we would walk into an office, a brand, and we would bring a meeting of all the contact center reps. And the first thing management would tell me was like, look, we're going to come in. We would say, absolutely not, because you're exactly right. They won't share because they're worried about their jobs and the feelings behind it. But we got so much valuable things out of those rooms full of people, far more than anything else. And they would do it themselves because, look, I worked on the floor of a contact center when I was younger. I started there. I knew everybody around me in my cubicle, what they were doing, why they didn't like this or like that. You just naturally become community. That's a great point because it's going to happen no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
You have a great podcast, Doing CX Right. What can you tell us what it's about, why you started it, and maybe where it's going over the next couple of years?
I started it when I was in corporate because I had felt and seen too many bad experiences for the customer and for the workforce. And so I wanted to bring those conversations. I wanted to make it real where people can actually share their experiences and then problem solve. And a lot of leaders listen to my show. And so I knew that change can happen. It won't be overnight, but I can be part of the change. And I started getting some really high caliber guests, big titles, big authors. And so it almost became a game to myself. Like, okay, I got them. All right, now who else can I get? And it became a game and it was fun. And it was the connection with people that I would never have spoken to otherwise. So it's been a labor of love. It's a way to educate. And I'm all about educating and paying it forward because it comes back. So, but it's all about doing CX right, as it sounds. Like, how do you do CX right? From culture, from measurements, from the merge of AI with the human element, and good examples and case studies of that.
So you've done 150 plus episodes.
130, but there are more in the bank.
Thank you. Sorry. What's the next thing for you for topics? Like, where do you take the next year? I know AI is probably hot for you, and I don't want to completely spoil things, but I'd love to just kind of know what you're thinking for two knucklehead podcasters.
It's a lot around, a lot more around agent experience because the attrition is so high, and it's why I did a LinkedIn Learning course to stop that bleeding. A lot more around the human centricity in the AI era and what I call humanizing business, and then going deep into use cases.
That's awesome.
Really like taking good examples and bringing that out. What's really what others can do that don't take a high investment. So, and then of course we know that's fueled by the internals. So it's that blend.
Is there anything else you want to share with our audience? All three of them that watch this thing every time it comes out?
Brian's parents,
parents,
my wife.
our boss sometimes watches it.
That's exactly where I started. Honestly, it was like, I started my blog in 2017. I had no idea if anyone would ever read it. And I want people to know that they read it. And that becomes a platform that people hook onto. You may not even know it. And so I encourage you, keep going, because that's how I've gotten where I am today. I don't believe in fake famous, which is a great HBO movie. Fake famous, no thank you. It's this. It's the real conversations, and it's the consistency that gets you heard and known and followed.
So, barring all the guests you've already had, is there one golden chaser person that you would love to interview that'd be the trophy for you?
I would say the first two right off the bat is Oprah Winfrey. And I am a Simon Sinek fan. I definitely am. And I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. And so I'd love to have a conversation with him too.
Yeah, I read that one. That's a good one.
We'll have to make some calls.
Thank you.
We'll see what we can do to help you out.
You know Oprah, right?
Yeah, as a Chicago guy,
That's right.
Of course, we all know each other. I like your consistency thing because we're going to redirect that and throw it to Jake and make sure that he's putting those out on a good cadence to make sure that our audience knows when they're coming and when they're going to drop. So no, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Remind us of your website because this is a new episode. I want to make sure that our audience has easy access to how to find more about you.
Thank you for that gift. It's doingcxright.com. And for anyone who doesn't know what CX means, customer experience. I do get that a lot. Doing CX right. What's CX? I'm like, oh boy, we've got a lot to talk about.
Stacy, thank you so much. Let's wrap. We'll see everybody next time. Like, subscribe, join, find all this at LinkedIn and join the conversation. Otherwise, mosaic.com/podcast. And we'll see everybody next time. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you. It's cool that you're doing this, as part of your business.
It's completely left field for most of us.
But I ran the radio station in my high school, because they were going to
I
do
did
this. I'm like,
not.
no, you don't want to do that, guys.
I
And
did
I'm like,
not.